The wedding hall went completely silent when the elderly groom dropped to his knees in front of his bride, his hands shaking, his expensive suit wrinkling against the floor. Guests who had come to laugh suddenly stopped breathing. His voice cracked as he said something no one expected, and the woman everyone had mocked began to cry. Before we get into what really happened that night, take a second to subscribe to Kindness Teles, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. These stories mean more when we experience them together. Now let me tell you how it all began. At 65, he was the kind of man people pointed at when they drove past the hill overlooking Lake Evergreen. The stone mansion with the iron gates and 3 black cars in the driveway belonged to him. He had built a chain of hardware stores across 3 states, sold the company for millions, and then spent the last decade investing in things that quietly made him richer while he pretended he didn't care about money anymore. His name carried weight at charity galas and golf clubs. Waiters knew his drink before he asked. Bank managers stood when he walked in. But when he came home at night, the house echoed. His wife had passed away years earlier. No children. No dog. Just rooms that smelled faintly of lemon polish and old photographs. He told everyone he liked the peace, that he enjoyed being alone. But some evenings he left the television on just to hear another voice. His friends, if you could call them that, were mostly other wealthy retirees who met every Friday at a private lounge downtown. They laughed too loud, told the same stories, and made jokes that got meaner the more whiskey they drank. One night, after too many drinks, the conversation drifted to marriage. "Why don't you ever remarry?" one of them asked, swirling ice in his glass. "You could have anyone. Half the women at these fundraisers are waiting for you to look their way." He shrugged. "I'm too old for that circus." They started teasing him. Said he was scared. Said he'd forgotten how to flirt. Then someone laughed and said, "I bet you wouldn't even marry the first woman you see at the diner tomorrow morning." Another man leaned forward, eyes bright with mischief. "No, no. Make it interesting. Marry someone completely opposite of you. Someone nobody would expect. I dare you." It was stupid. Childish. But the room smelled of whiskey and pride is a dangerous thing. He smirked and said, "Fine. If I meet someone willing, I'll do it. I'll marry her within a month." They all roared with laughter and shook on it like boys. The next morning, with a slight headache and a ridiculous promise hanging over him, he stopped at a small roadside diner he'd never noticed before. It was the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and a bell that jingled when you opened the door. She was behind the counter, wiping down menus. She was big. Not just curvy, but heavy in a way that made strangers stare too long. Her uniform didn't quite fit right. Her cheeks were flushed from the heat of the kitchen. And when a group of teenagers walked by outside, he saw them point and snicker through the window. But she didn't notice. Or maybe she pretended not to. She smiled at him the way some people smile at everyone, like they've decided the world deserves kindness whether it gives it back or not. "Morning, sir. Coffee?" Her voice was warm, steady. He nodded and slid into a booth. While he waited, he watched her move around the diner. She helped an old man count his change when his hands shook too much. She packed an extra muffin into a young mom's bag and whispered, "It's on the house." She cleaned a spill before anyone asked. Nobody thanked her. They just expected it. Something about that quiet patience tugged at him. When she brought his plate, he asked her name. She told him. Told him she worked double shifts because the owner couldn't afford more staff. Told him she'd been there 8 years. He surprised himself by staying to talk. He came back the next day. And the day after. At first, he told himself it was just curiosity. A joke he hadn't finished. But slowly, the conversation stretched longer. She told him about taking care of her sick mother for years, about medical bills that never seemed to shrink, about how she liked to bake for the local shelter on Sundays. She never complained. She just spoke like this was life and she'd made peace with it. People stared when they saw them talking together. Some customers whispered. One woman actually said, loud enough to hear, "What's a man like him doing with her?" He saw her shoulders tense, but she kept smiling. The dare crept back into his mind. One afternoon, he said it before he could stop himself. "Would you ever consider getting married?" She laughed, thinking he was joking. Then she saw he wasn't. Her eyes searched his face. "You barely know me. Maybe I want to." She didn't answer right away. Finally she said softly, "I don't have money. I don't have fancy clothes. I don't even have time. All I've got is a good heart and a lot of responsibility." He swallowed. That might be enough. When the wedding invitations went out, his so-called friends thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. They sent messages asking if it was a prank. Some even said they couldn't wait to see the circus. She showed up to the ceremony in a simple white dress she'd bought on sale. No designer labels. Just lace and hope. People stared. Whispered. Judged. He saw it all. For the first time in years, he felt embarrassed not of someone else, but of himself, and of the company he kept. Then came the moment at the altar. The laughter in the back rose. Someone muttering, "He really did it." Something broke inside him. When the officiant asked if he took her as his wife, he didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned, looked at the crowd, and saw the smirks, the phones raised to record what they thought was a joke. That's when he dropped to his knees. Not for drama. Not for show. He took her hands and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I thought this started as a bet. Something stupid. But somewhere along the way, you showed me more kindness than I've seen in decades. You treat strangers better than most people treat family. I'm the lucky one here, not you." Tears filled her eyes. The room went silent. "I don't want to marry you because of a dare," he continued. "I want to marry you because you're the best person I know." There was no laughter after that. They married quietly. But what surprised him came later. After moving into the mansion, she didn't change. She still woke up early to cook breakfast herself. She still packed food to take to the shelter. She insisted on learning the names of every staff member and treated them like family. Within months, she convinced him to fund a free meal program at the diner. Then a small clinic for low-income seniors. Then scholarships for kids who couldn't afford college. He had spent decades growing money. She showed him how to grow meaning. Neighbors who once gossiped started stopping by with pies. Employees worked harder because they felt seen. Even his old friends grew quieter around him, like they finally understood they'd been laughing at the wrong things. And every night, the house didn't echo anymore. It smelled like fresh bread and sounded like soft humming from the kitchen. Years later, people in town didn't talk about the millionaire who married that obese woman. They talked about the couple who paid for hospital bills, who showed up to school plays, who remembered birthdays. They talked about kindness. Sometimes the world dares us to do foolish things. But every now and then, those moments lead us somewhere unexpected, somewhere better. He thought he was risking his pride. Instead, he found love, purpose, and a heart bigger than all his wealth combined. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and tell me in the comments about a time kindness changed your life. Because sometimes the greatest treasures aren't in bank accounts or mansions. Sometimes they're simply in choosing to see someone's heart and saying, "You matter."